And Sheila, you're going to hit the broadcast button, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay.
This is exciting. And this afternoon, I have another presentation
Oh, you have another one right after this?
at 1, and that's to one of the big sisters. So the Seven Sisters
Okay.
law firms, all the associates.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wonderful.
They're bright people, but dumb with numbers.
Okay, I'm gonna go on mute. I'm just gonna hit the washroom and get something to drink, and I'll be back in about 5 minutes or so.
Perfect. I'll
Okay.
mute me.
I'll be back in 3 minutes, sorry. Welcome to Advocis Coffee Talks. Please note that all attendee mics are muted and video is off to ensure that there are no technical difficulties. Your webinar will begin in 2 minutes. Thank you for joining Advocis Coffee Talks, espresso-sized webinars for Advocis members. I'm your host, Sheila Godsey, National Manager of Member Engagement at Advocis National. And helping in the background is Abir Sajjad, Member Engagement Associate at Advocis National. If you've just joined, please note that all attendee mics are muted and videos off to ensure that there are no technical difficulties. If you have questions during the presentation, please hover your mouse on your screen and you will see a Q&A button where you can type your questions throughout the webinar, and we will make sure that all questions are answered before the end of this session. If you're joining us by phone, please email events@advocis.ca and tell us the phone number you joined from, first and last name, and Advocis ID. Our Zoom attendance report tells us how long each of you are on the webinar or call, and in order to receive CE credit, you must attend for the entire webinar. Today we will hear from Elke Rubach of Rubach Wealth. Have you ever wondered how to uncover your clients' deeply held values and goals? In today's Coffee Talk, Elke will share how she has built her business by asking the right questions and having conversations with clients to move towards discovering what they truly value. Advocis is your professional association, and I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's Coffee Talk, Financial Horizons, for helping Advocis continue to build a strong community of financial advisors across Canada. But first, I want to start off with a poll. I'm going to bring up a question and ask you to choose the answer that suits you. It's anonymous and no one can see who answered, including me. So here's the question. What do you expect out of today's webinar? Sales ideas, perhaps how to deepen conversations with clients, or maybe some new business development ideas? We'll just give it a couple of minutes. We just want to get an idea of what's on your minds out there, and then we will share the results. And here are the results. So it looks like most of you are looking on how to deepen conversations with clients, and it's perfect timing because now I'm going to introduce our speaker. Elke Rubach founded Rubach Wealth and has been providing tax-efficient financial planning to clients since 2012. She is a certified financial planner and a chartered life underwriter. She earned her law degree from the London School of Economics and is fluent in 3 languages. Her early life experience with her family has informed her passion for financial planning. Take it away, Elke.
Thank you, Sheila. And hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. I want to give a special shout out to Kathy Hiscott, a friend, a mentor, and a role model. And thank you, Sheila, to you and your team for putting this together. Your support has been great. Also to my team who shares vision and shares hard work, but we also share a lot of OMG moments, and it's tons of fun. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys about, during the next 15 minutes or so, how we do things at our company. Maybe give you ideas and resources of possible conversations that you may have with your clients, or a way you can strengthen your conversations and your relationships with your clients for a long-term client advisor relationship. I'm also happy to connect with all of you offline if you have any questions, or the typical situation where you remember post webinar that you wanted to ask a question. So by all means, shoot me an email or connect on LinkedIn. So let's get started. Where does it all begin? So yes, I'm a lawyer and by training, and no, I did not hit my head when I decided to change professions. Based on my education, everything pointed at me being a lawyer forever and being in that field. But of course, then, like we all know, things change and life happened, and I came to Canada for a year. And that year has turned into 17 years, and 3 kids later, I'm still here. So I won't go and walk you through the entire route, but the day I decided to leave the field of law, when my kids were teeny tiny, I realized that law and my family did not work together, at least not being an international M&A lawyer. But I did know that I wanted to work in a field where I made an impact on people's lives and the way they live. I wanted to help people prevent easily preventable mistakes that put families through hard situations. And if you look at my profile, it's when my dad passed away and I was 15 or so, we had assets and we were fine. And the fact that he didn't plan when he could have put the family in unnecessary stress. So my mom had to go back to work, or actually start working, and she had to figure it out. She did, but clearly it was not easy, and it was certainly not necessary. So that clearly marked my life. And when I decided to start Rubach Wealth, part of the exercise was to figure out who I was and what I stand for. And when you're talking to your clients about, financial control and clarity, you have to know what you are and why you're doing what you're doing. You have to invest in your business, invest in yourself, and it's time and money that you invest, but it's the best investment of your life because it is a game changer. I hope all of you have read a book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why, followed by The Infinite Game. And, as a companion to my exercise of finding out who I am and what I stand for, that book further solidified the reason that fuels Rubach Wealth. And it's my personal story. I would love to think that my story is unique, but unfortunately there's too many GoFundMes for people who did not plan. And I think it's more the rule than the exception that people try to save pennies or think that insurance is expensive. And they realize that, after the fact that they made a big mistake. So that's why at Rubach Wealth, our logo and our slogan or tagline is, you're not the client. Well, it is unusual. What we try to do with that is make people stop and reflect. And it doesn't matter how affluent people are, there's always a level of financial planning that you owe to someone, your family, yourself, your community. And one way or the other, everyone leaves a legacy, and it can be a good legacy or a bad legacy. And a messy legacy is not fair to yourself, it's not fair to your family, and especially it's not fair for children. So the idea of helping others gives meaning to everything we do at Rubach Wealth, and it does sit at the heart of who we are. We see our business and our processes as a journey. Our financial planning services provide clients with a fresh perspective of where they are, what they want to do in the short term, what they want to do in the long term, and we take an active approach to figuring out what they need and what they don't need. So we want to make sure that they need what they have and they have what they need. Then we craft financial strategies for them to reach their goals. But this goes well beyond just growing their net worth. We work with successful professionals and business owners, and much of the financial planning work we do with them is aimed at providing for others. And in this sense, the actual client are the people and causes that people care for. So yes, we make a living by designing financial plans and selling insurance or asset management, but our real job and our drive is to give advice. We want to make sure that the goals that our clients have are covered not just in the short term. We want to help them see the potential and benefit of long-term planning. Of course, we want to make money, but we see the money as a means and not at all as a final goal. When we talk to our clients, we let them know that if something happens to them, if something terrible to happen, a disability or death, we're able to look at them or their widows and their families in the eyes and say, you know what, you can be sad, but not sad and angry. So they did the right thing in the right amount. So of course, I don't know anyone who loves buying insurance, but I can tell you that everybody loves what insurance does. If you're able to help your clients discover the reasons behind their aspirations and goals beyond the financial goals, you have been able to allow your client to be vulnerable with you. And you will have gotten to a point that you know him or her really well, and you are the guardian of many secrets. And with that power comes enormous responsibility. You owe your client the next level of gratitude, authenticity, and loyalty. And at the end, it's never about money. I mean, obviously they need their basic needs covered, that we know. But once you've been able to carry on the conversation with your clients, it's so much deeper. The other thing too is you have one reputation and you have to guard it with your life. No sales commission is worth wrecking your reputation or your relationship with your client. So that is our flagship. That's why we get up in the morning and how we do things. Not everybody's ready. Not all your clients, not all the people you talk to are ready to have this kind of conversation. It's deep and sometimes it's bumpy. But for you to be able to tell who's ready to take this approach, you need to be able to listen with intention. Ask questions and then remain quiet. And I can tell you that that awkward silence will be the runway that will open your client up. So few clients are interested in knowing how smart you are or how deep you know your product. Really, what people are craving is for someone to literally listen to them. Like, how many times do you yourself get pitched on LinkedIn every day with ads and pitches and connections requests that turn very quickly into some kind of sales pitch? All that noise creates insecurity. And particularly in the high net worth market, it gets really loud. So people, instead of acting, they clam up and then they won't act. So what your client wants to know is that really you're listening. You understand, you care, you're resourceful, and you're ethical. In our process, we don't fact find people. Well, I mean, obviously we do need hard facts. We need to understand, their investments, their coverage and their assets and their spending and their cash, all those things we do, of course. But we walk them through a discovery process because the hard fact finding can be easily replaced. A lot of people are very nervous about artificial intelligence. And as an advisor, if you don't step up the game, you're absolutely replaceable. So where the real magic starts is when you start digging deep in what's important to your client, their reasons, what drives them, their why. So that's why I still recommend that book and will recommend it forever. I mean, examples that I can give you, sometimes couples get busy with their day-to-day and they don't talk about things that seem very obvious. When we go through the process, we have been able to shine a light in discrepancies that they weren't even aware of. And without, obviously, without creating a fight, we want them to talk about it and be aware of the implications and reach a mutual agreement while an agreement is reachable. It's an art, it's not a science, and you need to get very good at it before you can say you've mastered it. And even when you've met with one client and you think that it was a complex case, you've seen one client and you've seen one client. The next client will be different and the assumptions change dramatically. A live example I had was a client that was referred to me because he wanted to convert a group, like an association policy, into an individual policy. That was totally doable. It would have been a quick commission, but when I walked him through the process, I started asking him questions. You know, tell me about your business. Tell me about your kids. 2 of the kids were in the business. They were already taking over, so there was no real succession issue as a business. But when I talked to him about his daughter, who was not in the business, we found out that, well, I found out that this daughter had a medical situation, a degenerative medical condition. So I told him, okay, so let's talk about her. What have you done for her? And I was able to, what one would think is obvious, I was able to show mom and dad that they were putting the burden on the 2 sons to look after the daughter once they were gone. And they had left absolutely zero independent money for the daughter to fend for herself and was going to be dependent on the sons. We know that marriages are everything but a sure thing. And we didn't want that for the daughter. So we started planning for the daughter, and the relationship went so much deeper. So sometimes you do have to ask tough questions, and you need to be very comfortable in your skin, because it's not pretty, but you have to do it, because otherwise you're not doing your job. It's also important when you want to talk to clients about, deeper and meaningful things in their life, to avoid using a jargon. Like, people want to understand what they're doing, and more importantly, how it affects them. We also incorporate a value searching exercise, and there's a million different ways of doing it, but it's very powerful, because you can talk them out of, get me the cheapest product, into something that is the right solution for what they're trying to achieve. And that's the real value of it. So not everybody sees the value, and that you need to be aware and comfortable with, but then they're not truly your client. It's the way we use a lot of analogies, and they seem to work really well with clients. It's very important that you're able to speak the same language with your client. But by the same token, you need to acknowledge when that client or that person simply is not receptive to your process or your language. And if you try to force your process or your the way you do things onto someone who doesn't believe in it, or doesn't make the time and treat you as a professional, you're wasting your time. Those are the 2 things that will happen: anger and waste of time. So when we talk to clients, we used to ask them, right, what do you want to do? And it usually starts with a long list of things they want to buy. So we of course write the list of what they want to buy, but then we go back to the list, and then we ask them what kind of person they will be once they acquire that asset or that item. And the conversation becomes rewarding and fascinating, because you open up a treasure chest of dreams and aspirations, but also fears. And, an example would be a traditional cottage. You help the clients discover what is important about a cottage. And it's rarely the actual asset. It's usually the place where the family will remain together. It's the place where they're going to create memories. It's a place where they will go to strengthen the bloodline, or, also can be a sense of pride and accomplishment. Everybody has a different story. So once you allow them to understand why they're really doing it, they want to reach that goal even more aggressively. So, very often when we talk to our clients, the reaction we get is, why hadn't anyone talked to us like this? And from a business perspective, it's spectacular because we're at an advantage. But really, from a human side of things, that's the way it should be done, in our opinion, and the people we talk to, because our clients don't necessarily want to be the richest people in the cemetery. They want to give meaning to their wealth, and they want harmony in the family, and they want the family to stick together, throughout generations. So really, when you're doing this process, or taking this human approach with people, you are being vulnerable, but you're also allowing your clients to be vulnerable and show you their dreams and their fears. What are their goals? We found that there are really 5 kinds of goals. They want to learn something, they want to achieve something, they want to do something, they want to go somewhere, or they want to buy something. So when you ask your clients about their goals, always spend time asking them why they want to do it. And I also ask how committed they are to reaching them, because you can be their accountability partner, and rest assured that if the commitment is not there, they're not going to do it. So you can also take this opportunity to be memorable to your clients. For example, the clients who want to learn a language, you can very easily send them a subscription to one of those language learning apps, and that will do 2 things. Every day, it'll remind your client that they have to log into the app and do their 5 minutes, 10 minutes of whatever language they picked. But guess what? Every time they open their app, they'll think of you, and they'll say, oh yeah, that's right. She told me that we were supposed to, committed to learning a language. Now I have to learn it. Now I have to do it. And every day you'll be in their mind. And we know app reminders can be very annoying. But if you have a good relationship with your clients, and we do ask our clients, what level of pest would you like me to be with you? They take it with humor, and they appreciate it. So, the other objective they might have is, athletic, financial, professional, run a marathon, start a business. So the options are multiple. When they talk about goals like things to do or places to go, the ones that they want to do are less cumbersome, climb a mountain or attend a concert. Those require less planning, less commitment, and certainly less budget, generally speaking. And when they talk about places to go, you can add that to the financial goals, because those normally require, when they talk about a crazy destination or some excellent adventure, they require more planning and traditionally a larger budget. When it's a goal about acquiring things, this is where traditional financial planning normally starts and ends. Buying a house, a cottage, building a pool. And what we tell our clients is there are no unreasonable goals. What there are unreasonable timelines. So what you need to build into their plans is a commitment, the flexibility, and what they really need is a strong hand to lift them and keep them on track. And you are the strong hand. I mean, to sum it all up, you can't go wrong if you're doing the right thing. And as long as your client feels heard and looked after, your business will automatically or naturally turn into a multi-generational venture. They will introduce you to their children. They will introduce you to your parents, because they want to they know that you're looking after them. They want you to look after the generation up or down or down. In some instances, you might deal with family businesses, but what you do need to make sure is that your knowledge level and your resources, your team, are at the level you need and your client needs to deliver the service and advice required by your client. Again, build a team. You're not expected to know everything, but work around people who can help you with what you don't know. Accept what you don't know and just make sure you find out and you're resourceful. When you walk the next generation through the same process, you'll be surprised because their aspirations will be very likely very different. And the answers are multiple and from all walks of life. But you know what will really prevail? Those are the family values and what's truly important to them and the impact you have made on them. So what really matters is the job you do to help them find out who they are. Thank you. Sheila, back to you.
Thanks so much, Elke. Now, we're going to get to our Q&A shortly, but before we do that, we're going to have our last poll question. So we're going to pull up a question here, and don't worry if you can't see the poll. We're not really collecting any data, just to get an idea of your thoughts. So the question is, what did you learn today that you can incorporate into your practice? So maybe what you heard from Elke about appealing to your client's emotions, or perhaps the fact that her education and her experience is very important, has informed a lot of what she does and is incorporated into her practice, maybe working with other advisors or the value searching. So we're going to give you a moment to vote and give them another couple of seconds and then share the results. So here are the results. It looks like appealing to client emotions, that was your number one thing that you got out of today's talk, and value searching were number two. Education and experience, of course, is important, and working with other advisors. So I don't know, Elke, if you found that to be an interesting poll result. I sure did. And I think your talk really highlighted the fact that appealing to emotions is so vitally important in deepening client conversations.
Absolutely. I think it's the real core of what we do, because you never know what's going to happen to people's businesses and situations. It's their fears and their dreams what drives them, and that's probably one of the first things you learn when you join this profession. They train you and they tell you to ask your clients about their dreams and goals. But I think you're so fresh and so young and so eager, Beaver, to go out there that we kind of think that is just part of the pitch, and we don't stop and reflect how important it is and how that makes us a very important element in our clients' lives.
Yeah. We have some questions that have come in. So the first question is, how can I work more with multi-generational business?
I think, obviously, from a business and profitability perspective, those are clearly the most profitable ones, right? But I think it really depends on what stage of your business you're at. You have to be authentic. You cannot pretend that you know what you don't know. And I say, no, if you're a 22-year-old, just started fresh from off the press advisor, it would just sound weird for you to go to a 60-year-old transitioning business family and say, let me advise you, right? If that's your stage and you happen to come across the opportunity, I would strongly recommend literally not trying this at home and surround yourself with other advisors who have done it before, because I can tell you that you can get, whatever percentage you negotiate with the other advisor of something, or 0% of nothing, and your reputation shot and that relationship gone. It's a matter of time. You have to prove yourself and do it with patience, and it's a journey. If for those who are in more mature stage of their careers, well, then it's listen to your client and offer the option to work with multi-generations. Always ask to meet the next generation, whether it's a business or just multi-generation, And if you don't know something, find the specialist. Invest in your business. Even if it costs you money, invest in your business, because once you've done it once, you've learned. And the value that comes out of that for you professionally is just 10 times bigger.
Thank you. And you're right. I think that is a very big topic, in fact. We have another question. So what is the most common mistake you see when talking to clients?
It's always a conversation that didn't happen. We are, and I mean, I've done it too, right? And when I was a baby advisor, I assumed that clients knew what I was talking about, or they knew that, you know, they had to plan for their children, or they knew that they had to talk about income replacement or so on. If you assume that your clients know, you are potentially setting yourself up for a catastrophe. It's better to go slowly and spend the time with the clients and do things right and slow once, kind of like measure twice, cut once, than going out and just, you know, shooting from the hip and you killing your business and really hurting your client. I mean, an insurance policy that is missold has horrible implications, and you owe it to your clients to take the time and do it right.
Now we have a couple more questions, but the first one is it advisable to focus the business on specific professional groups?
It really, again, you have to figure out who you are and what you stand for. If you're someone who is just trying to get a ton of clients, kind of like the Walmart style, maybe not. But if you're trying to finesse your language and how you talk to clients, absolutely. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I understand the pressures that lawyers go through. So for me, it's very easy to deal with lawyers because we speak the same language, right? It's less easy for me to deal with, I don't know, art people because it's not my world. So develop what you feel comfortable with and develop your process and see what works for you.
And do you have any advice towards helping people find the time to meet with their advisor and put these plans in place? Procrastination prevails so often. That's a question.
Ask it outright. How committed are you to reaching these goals? And, you know, and literally raise yourself to the same level of your client. Just because you sell insurance doesn't mean you're less. You're actually helping them more than they think. And if people are not ready to move, we did incorporate into our process and, you know, how committed are you and how soon are you moving on this, because we're going to hold you accountable. And if you're not ready, let's postpone this conversation for whenever you are, because you're damaging your business. They are hurting themselves, and you might end up with zero plan in place, and you just wasted a year or two of your life with a very frustrating case. Just
okay.
Yourself.
Yeah, I think that in the interest of time, I'm just going to close off with one last question. Is this approach workable in the middle to lower income family?
To be quite honest, it's more difficult, but the right way of doing it is so, because your work can actually help people move from the middle to the upper level, or from the lower to, you can influence social mobility with what we do. But there's two problems. Sometimes people don't see the value because they're busy and they just don't make time for it. And sometimes they just don't have the resources for it. So if you're in the lower to middle, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's harder. Like, you can't tell people, well, I can only meet you at 4. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to be on the bus. Well, if I didn't meet you at 4, well, I'm not meeting. It's common sense. And if that's where you want to go, you're going to have to devote certain time of your practice to building that sector, and the rest is what feeds you. But to be honest, it's difficult. Lower income levels is quasi impossible.
Okay. Okay, really interesting questions, Elke. Thanks so much to Elke Rubach for sharing her expertise and knowledge today. Now, next, if you were interested in today's topic, we will be sending links in our follow-up email to other resources available on our Advocates website. But stay tuned, because on September 22nd, our next coffee talk is with Glenn Stevens and Chris Ireland of PPI Advisory, and they'll be giving us a tax and estate planning update. Thank you for joining Coffee Talks today. We will be sending you a follow-up email tomorrow that includes a recording of this session and the links I mentioned. If you joined us by phone, please email events@advocis.ca and let us know what number you joined from, first and last name, and Advocates ID. CE credits will be loaded into your online CE tracker through the Advocates website and should be there by early next week. For more information, please visit our website at www.advocis.ca. If you have more questions for Elke Rubach, please email elke@rubachwealth.com. And if you want more information about Coffee Talks, please email events@advocis.ca. Thanks again. Have a safe and happy day.